in the summer, Festus gave the order for Paul to be transported from Caesarea to Rome. Luke, who had been in Judea throughout Paul's imprisonment, now reinserts himself into this narrative in Acts 27. Verses 1 through 8, they were setting sail. We've been on this series for a while, and verse 9 through 26, a storm arose. And it is led for me to once more say, as I've said, thank you, Usher, that in many cases, you can be in the will of God and still encounter some storms. It is not that an individual is out of the will of God, that he or she may be enduring some difficult times. Some things happen because you are in the will of God. Job was in the perfect will of God, and he lost everything. And all 10 of his children and Sister Job cracked up. So you can be in the will of God and still have to endure and encounter some situation. Verse 9 through 26, they spent a lot of time in Fair Haven waiting for more favorable weather. But the longer they waited, the more dangerous it got. Verse 23 is where I would also like to pin my lesson, because the angel spoke to Paul in verse 23, and in verse 25, Paul openly professed that he believed God. Verse 23, the angel said unto Paul, everything basically is going to be all right. And in verse 25, the apostle Paul confessed that he believed God. And let me say that Luke 1 and 37 says to us, for with God nothing shall be impossible. So verse 1 through 8, they're setting sail. Verse 9 through 26, they are caught in a storm. Verse 27 through 44, they are shipwrecked. Paul, bold Paul, preaching Paul, witnessing Paul, God's anointed preacher Paul, God's appointed preacher Paul, stood before the crowd and told the crowd that he was believing God. Then verse 21 through verse 32, God says we will all be shipwrecked, is what Paul declares, on an island. I'll get to where I'm going. God also says, verse 33 through 38, he says, not one person will lose his life. So he says to them, as I mentioned last Sunday, get you some food. Let's bless it. Eat it. What's left, throw it overboard. We won't save no leftovers because we won't need it. Because where we're going, the way has already been provided for us. God is going to see to it that we are taken care of. Let me say that to you this morning, that you are spending too much time lingering on how stuff looks. And what God is saying, you trust Him in what you can see. But I'm going to bless you beyond your imagination. And my blessings are beyond your control. But it won't be made manifest in your life because you can't see it, because you keep looking. So the question here is what you're saying. Why is it so easy? We've had church already, I'm done. For Paul to stand not after a storm. That's how I study. I just look at it. Paul stood, Jackie, in the storm. Professing, verse 25, that although I'm in a storm, I believe God. Oh, I wish I had some witnesses here this morning. Many of you don't believe God when you're in a storm. You wait until it's contact season, and then you start believing that He made a way out of no way. You wait till you go to the boat and hit the jackpot, and don't even give me, you wait till you hit the jackpot. Then you begin to come, I'm going to say, you wait till you hit the jackpot, don't give me none. But that's still. Take the money that you win and get the boat. You hear me, Teresa? I'm going to keep the boat. Give it to me. You let me know which pocket you put it in. I'm going to say, Lord, bless my left pocket. But I want you to go. But you wait until things happen that's favorable in your life before you praise God. But can I tell you something? Anybody can rejoice when the sun is shining. Anybody can rejoice when the wind is blowing in their direction. But can you praise Him when you're back up in a corner and you don't know what the outcome is going to be? Let me tell you, can't nobody rejoice for real like a person that's in a real storm. The reason why you can't do it is because you keep lingering on how it looks. And so why is it so easy for Paul to stand with such boldness? Here's the answer. Because Paul didn't linger on how it looked. Because his body was in the ship. His body was in the ship in a storm. His body was in a ship in a storm in the sea. But his spirit never doubted what he had been through while he was in the storm because of what he'd been promised. If God said, I wish I had at least 15 people who had been through some stuff and know didn't nobody bring you out but the Lord. I wish I had at least 15 people who would clap their hands and Like Paul. Many of you dealing with a storm in your own life. But let the pastor encourage you. Don't linger. Just look to Jesus. Believe what he says. There's never a mountain that he can't move. There's never a sickness that he can't cure. There's never a door he can't open. There's never a weakness that he can't give strength. I know you may feel like you're weak right now and you're down and you're burdened, but can I tell you something? God got so much power, he can give you a dose of his strength in the midst of what you're struggling with, and every day with him gets sweeter than the day before. You can have the world, but give it Jesus. Because when nobody else knows, he knows. When nobody else cares, he cares. When nobody else understands, he understands. When nobody else loves, he loves. When nobody else helps, he can help. Because he is God. Maybe you're asking the question, what should I do when I don't know what to do? It appears that it should have been this way for Paul and the other sailors while they were on board. Been in the storm in the deep, 14 days, no sun in the day, no stars at night. 276 men on board. They are hitting rock bottom, going to a place of destruction. The ship is now about to wreck. But remember, Paul had previously said that for those who were contemplating jumping overboard, he said, if you jump over, you're going to drown. But if you stay, I wish I had help. If you stay on board, you're going to be safe. Let me tell you, perhaps you want to jump overboard with a situation in your life. Stay on board. Stay on board. Don't jump overboard. Stay on board the ship. Jesus got you right where he wants to stay on board the ship. It's dangerous in the water, but you got no peace in the ship in a storm with the Lord than you do if you get out there without him. I'd rather be in the storm with him. What should I do? What did Paul do? Paul believed the promise of God. And you know what Satan do? Can I tell you? Give me a few moments. You know what they do? You know what Satan wants? You get to talking all that crazy stuff. Like Satan wants your car. Man, because I got a car. Somebody mad because you got a car. Satan ain't mad because you got a house. He's not mad because you got no nice clothes on. But when you get mad, it's when you start glorifying God in that house. You get mad when you start wearing them clothes, coming to God's house, giving him glory, driving his car, bumping 95.5, and you listen to songs like praise is what I do when I'm going through. You listen to songs like Jesus brought me a mighty long way. That's when he get mad. Because what Satan want to do to the child of God, you hear me clear now? He want to mess with your mind. That's why churches have so many fights. It's because Satan is the author of confusion. And if you're not strong enough in the go through hell and high water to even get themselves up out of the bed to get to church. And you talking about somebody didn't speak well. If they didn't speak to you, you speak to them. And if they don't speak back then so well, don't speak who things. I don't come to church for the purpose of who's speaking, for the purpose of who's coming, for the purpose of who's not. I come because of charge to keep my hand. And a God I have to glorify. Never dying soul to save, fitted for the sky. Serve this present age, my calling to fulfill. May all my power engage. I'm coming because I'm doing my master's will. Oh, Paul was able to speak with such boldness because verse 23, chapter 23, around verse 11, when Paul was in prison, he was given the promise that he would get to Rome to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now Paul is on board a ship headed to Rome, caught in the middle of a storm. Storm will catch us off guard. But here's what I like. The storm may catch me off guard, but they never catch God off guard. Because before the storm happened, God knows that the storm is going to happen. He knows all things. He knows everything. Because he is God. They are headed for, yes, where their direction is taking them at this time. Caught in the middle of a storm. But while they're on the ship, it appears that the ship is getting ready to wreck. The leader of one of the centurions says that if we don't get a hold to these prisoners, they're going to jump overboard and swim to another place. Well, they didn't know they had been in the dark so long that the land was approaching. They didn't know that it was land for real. So they were trying to figure out what it was that they were approaching. While they were sailing, the waves started beating up on the back of the ship. While they were sailing, you know you can be sailing down life's highway. Storm will prove out of all directions. They're sailing. The waves beat up on the back of the ship. Then they got stuck in the mud. And the ship began to fall apart. The centurion said, let's heal these inmates. Because if we don't kill them, then we will be killed ourselves. Well, Paul was on board, and Julius had made friends with Paul. That's why if you're going to connect with somebody, you ought to connect with people who have purpose on their life. Stop connecting with people who ain't going nowhere. Stop connecting with people who don't have an outlook on life. The ship began to fall apart. Those who could swim, they got out in the seawater. to what they had. Made it to the house of a believer. Not where I'm going to be, but I'm satisfied for where I am right now. Perhaps you're here this morning and you are out of church. You need a church home.